Hello, hello. Welcome back to So Into That, the podcast where I get to chat with really awesome people about the things that we are so into right now. I'm your host, Caroline Chambers, and this week's guest, you guys, this has been a long time in the making getting Robinne on the podcast. Robinne Lee, the author of The Idea of You, is our guest today. If you do not know what The Idea of You is, the book, the movie, have you been living under a rock? The movie came out on Prime a couple of weeks ago with Anne Hathaway, Nicholas Galitzine, I don't know how to say his last name. And it's, I don't know, I feel like it's the hottest movie right now. It's what everybody's talking about, everybody's watching. And it is based on the book, The Idea of You, by Robinne Lee, the incredible author and actress and mother who I get to chat with today. Robinne called in from Paris, where she lives with her family. Fun fact that we didn't even get to chat about is that she's an expat living in Paris. But we had way too much to talk about this book that she wrote that came out in 2017 and really didn't pick up the extreme cult feverish obsession until 2020 when everyone was stuck in their homes looking for escapism, and it gave us exactly that. If you're a long-term follower of mine, you know that The Idea of You was the first, what I call romance book, but as you'll learn in this podcast, Robinne would not call a romance. The Idea of You was the first romance book that I ever read, and it really has changed. It's definitely changed the way that I read. I now pretty much only read sort of romance, women's fiction, lighthearted, happy books. But as you'll hear in this podcast, she feels like the book shouldn't be classified as such. There's so many huge issues that are being tackled of feminism and motherhood and the push and pull of motherhood and balancing our desires with what we have to do as mothers. It's such a beautiful book. It literally has I think I've recommended it 1,500 times on my Instagram. Everyone I meet, I recommend it to, because it doesn't follow the traditional arc of a romance beach read, right? It has so much more depth, female friendships, this incredibly strong female character. So in this episode, you get to hear from Robinne about what the process was in making the movie, the changes that she would make if she had been more involved in the creation of the movie, her relationship with the music producer who brought to life this music that she wrote about in a book and then had to be actually brought to life on screen, and what she's really into right now, which is related to the book and is really, really fun. And I can't wait to go listen to. Robinne is such a treat. I'm so excited for you guys to listen to this episode. Be sure to follow her on Instagram. I will tag all of her books, all of the things in the show notes. She is so rad, and I cannot wait for her next book to come out, and we'll have her back on. But until then, this is Robinne Lee talking about The Idea of You, the book, and also how it was made into the Prime movie with Anne Hathaway and Nicholas Booty. Enjoy. Robinne Lee, I am so excited to have you here. You are the woman of the hour. Everyone is talking about The Idea of You. But first, before we jump in and hear all about your story in the book and the movie, what is something that you are really into right now?
Okay, this is going to sound, you sent me this message 24 hours ago, and I was like, what am I into? What am I really into?
What am I into?
I have been listening to the Idea of You soundtrack on repeat these last 7 or 8 days. And it's
so good.
It's really, really good. And the songwriter, Sivan Kotecha, and I'm sure I'm butchering his name, super talented. He reached out to me while they were shooting and said, hi, just wanted to say hello and introduce myself. I'll be doing the movie music for August Moon. And I've not been involved at all in the production. I knew nothing about what's going on at all.
Okay.
So he reached out to me, not while they were shooting, but maybe after. I don't remember if it was while they were shooting or shortly after when they were in post-production. But he just wanted to introduce himself. And at first, it was during my message requests, through my message request at Instagram. So I was like, is he just making this up? Is this a real person? So I looked up his name. I was like, no, he's real. He's a real producer and he's got some real credits. And he was so nice. And it was just really lovely to have someone reach out from the production. And then once it was out, he's like, have you seen it yet? He was very eager. I want to know what you think. I want to know what you think. And I was like, I've only heard the like 2 tracks and they sound good. I'll let you know when I see the movie. And so when I did, I reached out to him immediately. It was like, it's way better than I could have ever imagined. And I can't get the songs out of my head. And thank you for doing this band justice and writing some beautiful, brilliant pop songs that were like, not like I've gone in and out of my boy band phases in life, and I'm older now, so I'm really not listening to boy band. Like, I don't listen to BTS at all or anything. You know, I haven't really listened to boy bands as a thing for a long time. And this was perfect. It was a little nostalgic for like not 80s, but more 90s, I guess, but still really, really good and fresh and modern. And it was just so, it was more than I expected. And it wasn't even how I imagined August Moon sounding when I was writing for them, but that was okay.
Yeah.
That was okay. Like it.
Oh, I love that was okay.
Yeah.
When I heard, so I just watched the movie last night because I wanted it to be really fresh when I talked to you. And so I watched last night, and when they played Closer to You, I was like, this is exactly what I like. I was like, I feel like I've heard this song 50 times. It was a really weird feeling. Like the emphasis on the end that like kind of makes you have butterflies when they say closer to you. I was like, oh, yeah, that was exactly how I pictured
It's a great hook, as they say.
It's a really great hook.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes me feel happy. And I also think probably a part of why you feel so great about the music is because this guy took the time out of his day and week and month to think of you. Like he was like, she's the creator of this music.
It was so personal, and it was really lovely to have that kind of connection with him early. And then I met him this week in New York. We were in town for the premiere, and I guess it was still Sunday. I just checked into the hotel, and I was in the hotel lobby, and he went walking through, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, he's like, Robin? I was so excited, like, oh, he knows me. And no, it was really, really lovely. And I'm singing his praises. I hope he goes all the way. I hope he gets a Grammy. I hope he gets an Oscar. I don't know. Who knows? It's just a little movie on Amazon.
I'm now his biggest. It's not just a little movie. Never say that again.
But should it?
Well, I'm now his.
Like, should big things happen for this movie and for the music? I really hope he gets all the credit for the music. That's really lovely.
That's so cool. Yeah. Wow. I absolutely love that answer. Okay. So take me back because I do want to get into the movie, but first we have to hear how this happened. The idea of you was kind of I want to hear it from your mouth, but from my take, I had like maybe heard one or two people talk about it. And then all of a sudden it was 2020, 2021. And it was like everywhere. Everyone was reading it. If I mentioned it, everybody had already read it. So talk to me about this book. What year did you write it in? How did you write a book? Like, take us back.
I wrote it in 2000, between April 2014 and October 2015. The idea was planted in April 2014, and I was obsessed and started writing it immediately. It was like March 29th, 2014, but like by April 1st, I was writing, and by a month later, I had the first chapter done, and I workshopped that in my writers group.
Excuse my interrupting. Have you ever written a book at this point?
Yes. So I've been writing books since I was little, mostly for myself. Okay. I wrote my first book when I was in 9th grade. So I'm 14 years old, and literally handwriting in on loose leaf paper.
So cool.
And it was 884 pages. It is it is in a box or two under the bed in our guest bedroom here. And
I love it.
And I that was like the first book I wrote. And I wrote it for myself. And then I started writing another one about 2 years after that, like when I was a junior in high school. And that went on for some time. That went on, I think, for like 5 years. And it was like 1,200 pages. And I was kind of like, I'm not doing anything with this book. Or maybe it was 4 years, whatever. But I just I got bored of it and I just stopped. And then I started another one when I was in law school, and then kind of stopped with that as well. And it wasn't until after I had my first child, that I spent 6 years working on a novel that I was like, okay, this is it. This is the one I'm going to try to publish. Like, it's going to be beginning, middle, end. I'm going to finesse it. I'm going to edit. I'm going to edit. And I'm going to get an agent and publish it. And I couldn't sell it. I just couldn't. And so I was heartbroken. I took off 2 years from writing. Like, I couldn't even think about writing. And then I got the idea for this book, and it was so alive for me and real and viable, and it was such a passion that I knew it could be a great story. I knew I could do it justice, but I had to do it as quickly as possible because I didn't want to spend another 6 years writing something that I couldn't sell. And I knew I was making it timely. I didn't want someone else to come up with the same idea before my book was out there. I would Google like quickly, like I'd go on Amazon every once in a while, like searching like books about boy bands. Okay, nothing. Okay, and then I came up with a couple of things. I saw something and I was like, no, that's not my story at all. Like,
And 2014, 15 boy band era, who's like your main inspiration behind this? Because of course there's speculation that it's...
One Direction were big during that time, for sure. Mm-hmm. But I was looking at other things. So when I was young, like an adolescent, my first obsession was Duran Duran. And as a teenager, and I used to write Duran Duran fan fiction. And so, before it was called fan fiction. Incredible. It was like my stories about Duran Duran.
Yeah.
So when I had the idea for this book, I knew, I was like, well, I've written for British characters before. I've written for British guys in a band. I've written all this like interband mechanism. I mean, of course it was like my teenage imagination and like, what is it like on tour? But then when I was still in college, I'd started a company with a girlfriend of mine, and it was a management company. We were managing a singing group, a girls group, and we got one of the new kids on the block to produce for us when they were kind of at the height of their fame. And so I got to know him and the other guys in the band when they were like crazy, crazy famous and at the height of it. And so I could see all that up close and personal. Like I knew as close as one could possibly know, like as much as I'm one of those people who I don't forget anything. I keep it all in a journal. So like, I'm like, so you're there and you're either you're backstage or at the hotel, you're in the recording studio, you're moving with them and like in caravans, and they're like, okay, meet us here, come through this back door because this security guy will meet you because you won't be able to get in with that. Like little things like that. And I just like remember it. And so when I came up with the idea of this book, I was like, I know this, I've lived this, I can write this, mm-hmm. but British because of my Duran Duran time. And I just needed to know what was a modern day boy band like. And so One Direction were the most current one. And so I would look at the mostly I didn't want to know about the individual guys and their histories and how they got to be with the band. I wanted to know what their day-to-day was like what TV shows they were doing, what appearances they were doing. And like, because it wasn't so much the MTV generation anymore, which is how I grew up.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, like, it was like, okay, so you're on the Graham Norton show, or you're on Jimmy Kimmel, or you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to know what that looked like. And then when I was looking at their tours, I wanted to know how you went from an arena tour to a stadium tour. And so I'd follow other big acts. Like I followed Ed Sheeran's trajectory. I was following Beyonce's trajectory, even like Rolling Stones, like what stadiums are they playing now? Like what's hot in 2015? And so it wasn't like, let me just do One Direction. It was like, okay, I need to know, like if this was a really big act right now, where would they be? Who would they be doing?
What would their day-to-day
be like? Are they at the American Music Awards? Are they at the Grammys? Are they being nominated for Grammys? Are they just performing? Are they, like all those little things. And so all that went into creating August Moon. And August Moon is actually a lyric from a Duran Duran song. It's from the Wild Boys. It's from the song Wild Boys. And so August Moon and all their song titles and album titles and tour titles of it in the book are all Duran Duran lyrics. They're like esoteric Duran lyrics.
What? That is a huge... That's fantastic. Okay, so 2015, you sounds like you just had the exact vision. You hammer out this book.
I hammer out the book. The first agent I sent it off to loved it, signed me.
Come on. Did you have a pre-existing relationship?
I did not. He was a friend of mine introduced us. She knew of an agent, and I was like fine tuning my list of like my 5 top agencies that I thought would be great. And she kind of preempted, it's like, I've already pitched your idea to someone. I want him to look at it. Do you
Yeah, I've
mind?
got
And
it.
he happened to be like the head of one of my top 5 agencies. So it was like a no-brainer, but he was a man. And I really thought this was a woman's book. And I was like, no, I'm going to have a female agent. This is very female driven.
Yeah, you're not going to understand
He's
this
not going to
book.
get it.
Yeah.
He got
Yeah.
everything. He, to this day, like, I
God.
love him.
We love a girl's guy.
He was just, it was incredible. Like how
he got it.
I'm still blown away that he was able to, like, all the nuance, all the soul. He was just wonderful. And so I adore him.
Wow.
I signed with him.
Dreamy.
He spent several weeks like going through and giving me notes. I got a bunch of notes, a lot of notes. I guess it was like the day before Thanksgiving, 2015.
Fun.
And I was traumatized, and all my writer friends were like, put it in a drawer. Don't think about it for a month. Don't think about it. Don't even look at it, whatever. But of course you put it in, then you are thinking about it constantly. So I'm making little notes. I was like, okay, he wants to do that. Okay, I could do that. And then what if I did? Okay, I can. So you start, and then I took it out of the drawer right before Christmas 2015 and just started writing. And then in between, while that was happening, I booked a part in 50 Shades of Grey. So I'm an actress, and I booked a part in 50 Shades of Grey.
I know we haven't even talked about your acting career yet.
And I don't, if you're doing a film or television show and it's based on a beloved book, you want to read the book. And I hadn't read 50 Shades. So I didn't want to read it while I was still writing because I didn't want to influence my voice because I'm so susceptible to other authors' voices. So then I kind of like, I gave myself a deadline. I was like, I've got to be on set at a certain time in Vancouver. Before I get to Vancouver, I have to have read the script. And before I read the script, I have to have read the book. And before I read the book, I have to finish my book. And so it was kind of like,
God, I love a deadline.
It was amazing. It was wonderful to have that self-imposed deadline. And so I just plowed through it, and it was brutal. And one of the notes was, in addition to all the 800 red lines in the thing and like 6 pages of notes, there was try to lose 15 to 20,000 words. And I was like, absolutely no way. I was devastated. Like, there's no way I could do that. I was able to cut about 7,000 words, and I did so within the text itself. I did not lose one storyline, one character, one whatever. I was like, I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it. I'm just streamlining my sentences. I'm rewriting them in different ways so that they're just short and sweet and get to the point.
God, so that took a ton of effort. Oh my God, you were.
But yeah, I was so in love with the story, and I was like, I'm not giving up this. I'm not giving up this Oliver storyline. I'm not giving up, like this friend coming over to talk to Solène. Like, there's so much in there that was so rich to me. It's like, I'm not losing it. I turned it in, and then he sold it within 2 weeks, and happily ever after. I mean, it was not happily ever after. That's when everything began going wrong. Not wrong, but it's like, once you put something out into the world, it's different. At least it was just my story and my baby, and it was this wonderful gift I had. And now then you share it with the world, and then it opens it up to judgment and critique, and that's when it can get ugly.
Yeah. And also you had not only your agent do that first pass of making it look like it was bleeding, but then it went to your editor, who I'm sure did the exact same thing.
She was a dream in the way that she didn't want to change anything. She's like, you can add more here. Like, she didn't say lose page. She was like, add this, add that. I was like, I can add. I'm great at adding things.
I can add.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I know these characters so well. I can.
Another storyline?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So when did it publish?
June 2017.
And what was that first month like for you? Was it, oh my gosh, this book is being found, this book is getting this amazing reception?
No, it wasn't that at all. It was quite the opposite. It was really a lot of anxiety, I was super nervous about it. I was uncertain of how it was being pitched. I thought they'd kind of package it, and they were promoting it and marketing it more towards a romance. And to me, it was not a romance. It was a love story. I was not a romance. I was not a fan of romances. I hadn't read any romances. That's different now because of how my book has been positioned. I've met lots of other romance writers. And so I read their books. But then I I didn't read romance. And so I didn't follow a formula. I didn't know there was a formula. I was just writing my story. And I read a lot of literary fiction and women's fiction. And to me, that's what it was. But it was a love story in that kind of world.
And it also does have the like romantic scenes that are traditional of a romance book.
Well, it doesn't. I mean, they're romantic. There's sex, but as I understood it, as I was writing it, and someone in my writers group critiqued it, she said, "Oh, you're supposed to have." It was something like 3 scenes or 2 or 3 scenes, love scenes, soup to nuts, and I was like, "What is it?" I literally asked, "What's soup to nuts? What does that mean?"
What's soup to nuts? She's like,
"That's
let me walk you through
foreplay
it
to the orgasm," and I was like,
"She's like, did your mother ever teach you?"
And then I was like, 3? I was like, but they have sex more than 3 times. And it's like, and I don't want to show the entire thing every single time. Like, I'm not.
Yeah.
When I was writing the book, I was very much like, I'm not putting them naked on the page unless they were emotionally naked. And so each scene that happens to be a sex scene, they have to be revealing something of themselves or to each other, either to the reader or to each other. Otherwise, I didn't want to put it there. So I wasn't going to throw in sex scenes just to have a sex scene. And I kind of thought of it as like reading a woman's journal, right? So this is how I used to write in my journal back when sex was new, or sex was with a new partner. I've been married for a long time now, and so sex is not so new. But in the beginning, like, you want to write about everything, and then by the 4th or 5th time, you're just like, and then maybe, but you don't have to. I don't have to describe dimensions and things. Like,
yes,
it's like it's the same guy. We've been together for a few months now.
Same
right?
Parts.
Yeah, same parts. Like,
different
right.
place.
And so I want it to feel like that. So in the beginning, it's everything with him is new, and so she's recalling more of it. She's recounting more of it for the reader.
Gosh, I love that. Yeah, we're like getting more detail at the beginning because it's so fresh and exciting and new for Solène. This is very interesting. So many of my favorite authors don't classify themselves as romance authors, and who I would have thought, because I'm not in the world, I'm not the author, who I would have thought are so clearly romance authors. And so, you're the 3rd author who I've spoken to who's like, no, I'm not a romance author. And I'm like, you're not? Because that was a really romantic book. It did have but there is so much more depth to it. And those female friendships, the relationship with her daughter, and like it does, your book, it's so funny. I recommend your book frequently, like once a month I'm talking about it on my Instagram. And then for the next 2 weeks, I get just hate mail. How could you break my heart like this? How could you do this to me? This is the best book I've ever read. I can't believe how it ended. It tore me apart.
Right. So if you're getting that, you can imagine what I've been getting. And I've been getting it for 7 years. And I blame it on the packaging.
Yes, totally. That is so true. If you're telling a woman, here's the formula you're going to get, fall in love, have a breakup, get back together happily ever after, then of course they're going to be pissed. That's what we're used to getting. But guess what, guys? It doesn't have to be the same exact story every time.
Right. Exactly.
It doesn't have to be. So, okay, 2017 comes. It has, would you call it a lukewarm reception? I honestly don't know. How was it received at first?
It wasn't that it was a lukewarm reception, that it was just a small launch. Like they didn't make it it wasn't on their list to make a big book. And so I think the publishers
are so...
Yeah. So I brought on an independent publicist.
They have a really hard time with publicity. Yes.
I brought an independent publicist.
You did it all yourself.
I did everything myself. Like everything I made for the events went to my publicist. And I was just sure that if enough people read it and the right people read it, they would respond to it and it would grow. And so I have been on social media every day for 7 years trying to sell this book. And it's just been grinding because it's like, it's going to have to be word of mouth because I've run out of money to publicize. I'm not going to buy like a billboard or, it's just going to have to be word of mouth. And I have to hope that my readers like it enough and talk about it enough. And so I engage with any reader who reached out to me, like DM'd me, it was a message request, whether tagged me something on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. Like I was there to engage with them, whether they liked it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they were saying, how did this
Right.
book
Yeah,
end this
like
way?
exactly. Are
And
you
you were
gonna write
saying,
it? I know. I'm like,
that's how
that's
it
life. I'm
ended.
so sorry. Maybe I'll write a sequel someday.
Life.
Maybe not. Like
Yeah.
that wasn't the
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
So God. So it's been exhausting. It's been exhausting, and it's affected every aspect of my life. And like for 3 years after I couldn't write, I had full on writer's block because I was like, what did I do wrong to make them
Ooh.
position the book in this way? And so that I have to fight so hard to get it seen for what it is.
Wow.
And so I couldn't write. I could not write. And then when I did start writing, it took a long time. Like I just finished a decent first draft of the next novel. And that's after 5 years of writing, which followed 3 years of writer's block.
Right. And whereas this book had come out and flowed out so easily because you knew exactly what you wanted to write, and then the world and your publisher and
right. Yeah. I just felt like they weren't taking it seriously, I guess, or they didn't care about the things that were most important to me. Like the theme, like the love story is lovely, but that's
ancillary.
It's almost ancillary. It's not. It's her story. It's this woman's story. It's her
totally
reawakening, and her desire to kind of live outside of the box, and her journey to like redefining herself and what her happiness is, and then also showing like how as women we so often put others' happiness before our own. And like that tie between being a mother and being a woman, and like, I mean, the tie pulling this, all the different ways that you're pulled in different directions and not able to do anything to the fullest, or trying everything and like, and feeling that you're failing at something or not at another. And like, and she falls in love, and then and her business suffers, and her relationship with her daughter suffers. And it's like, why can't I have it all? And I wanted the audience, the reader, to think about that. And if I'd put it like, and then they run off into the, whatever they run off into, like, then it would have been like, then you would have been like happily ever after. And people were like, oh, that was great. And put it aside and never forget. I mean, like, and move on to the next book. But if they don't,
and look at how
they have to stop.
This book stuck with people.
Right. They have to stop. And like, we as women have to think, why couldn't she work? Why didn't it work out? Why? What is it that?
Yeah.
And I get hate mail like, well, if you really loved him, if you're really a feminist, you would give her what she wanted. And it's like, no, I'm giving you the opportunity to think about it. like I'm not here to like.
No, I'm a feminist, so I'm giving you the opportunity to think about it. Wow, I love that. I've had this conversation with so many people over the years, and I've never thought about it fully from that. I've always said, well, don't you love that it ended differently than everything else? Just kind of like, that's been my blanket statement. Like, what a gift to us that finally a romance book, because I never thought, oh, it's not a romance book. What a gift that a romance book didn't end the exact same freaking way as all of the other ones. But I've never thought of this like feminist angle of this push and pull, and like, no, it simply couldn't work out for her to get it. And that's why.
And you think about that, you think about the double standard, you think about the darker side of fame. Like you should have questions. You should be angry. You should be upset. You should like, you should start a revolution with me, guys. Come on, women.
The darker side of fame thing, AKA, so in the book, Hayes's fame really is what, and in the movie too, but we obviously just get so much more detail in the book. Hayes's fame is really the reason why they can't be together ultimately. It's too much. And like, yes, that is in the movie too, but it's just, we feel it so much more deeply. Like, one part that I thought was really interesting in the movie is that they really glorify the tour, the Europe tour, as like when they fell in love and had all this fun time together on the beach, biking around France. And that is not how the book goes. In the book, the tour is a disaster. Like, she's in a hotel room. She's like, they can't be seen in public because it's a mob. That's when things really get tough for them in the book. I thought that was a huge key difference. The darker side of fame is something that's so examined in the book and is such a key part of, like, he's like, fuck this fame if I don't get to have you. Like, That's the only thing that's important. Okay, so I do want to finish the arc of when the book like really took off as this cult phenomenon. Was there a moment that you were like, oh my gosh, this book's going to be huge. Oh my gosh, movie producers are calling me, trying to buy the rights. Like, was there a one moment?
I didn't feel like there was one moment. I feel like it was slowly snowballing, and I was literally selling. There were days I felt like I sold one book a day. I sold one book today on Instagram. Like, I connected with one person who said,
Yeah.
I'll give that a shot.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there were a few poignant moments. There was in the spring of 2018, Colleen Hoover reached out to me because she'd read the book and thought it was amazing and wanted me to attend her first book bonanza.
Is that a public facing event or like for writers?
It's public facing. It's for readers. It's for her readers, and I mean, well, readers in general. You sign up, you buy a ticket, and there's like a series of panels, and then autograph sign. Like, you meet your writer or whatever, autograph signing. And it's like a 3-day or 2.5-day bonanza kind of thing. And the first year it was in Denver, Colorado, and then thereafter it's been in Dallas. So she asked me to do it in 2018, and all of her money, by the way, goes to a charity. She's amazing. So yeah, it's not. She's not just pocketing it. We don't get paid for being there, but it, like,
that's really cool.
I should probably point that out. That's very important.
Yeah.
So that was a big moment. And then they asked me to do the opening. They had one big opening panel. I think it was about writing sex scenes, and they put me up in the opening panel along with E.L. James, and because I'd done 50 Shades of Grey. It was a friendly panel, and it was to the full audience. At that point, I think we were like 3,500, 2,500. There was a lot. 1,500? I don't know. Somewhere between 1,500 and 3,500. I cannot remember. Being
a huge captive audience.
And so I felt like I sold a lot of books that day. And then...
but yeah, you're still on like kind of counting individual book sales at that point.
And in the spring of 2019, I was approached by Grace Atwood and Becca Freeman to do their Bad on Paper podcast. I think they did one on the book itself, and they wanted to interview me. And I decided that actually I wasn't approached directly. The publicist at my publisher reached out to me and said they would like you to do it. Could you do that? And I was like, that's something awesome. I can call into. She's like, you can call in, or you can go into their studio, which was like in Brooklyn. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to fly to New York and go and meet them. And I'm glad I did it, because it really, I feel like that was a huge moment. And they had so many followers, and they were invested, and they both love the book so much. And they're both such awesome women. I don't know if
they're so cool.
Yeah, they're super, super cool. And we're still in touch to this day. And I feel like that was a major shift. And then during the pandemic,
a catapult. Yeah.
With this, we had a captive audience. Everyone was home and looking for escapism, and the book provides that. And there was, I think it came out like on the Skim, maybe I did something first, and then Oprah.com did something. And then in December of 2020, Michelle Ruiz wrote an article for Vogue that kind of went viral, and that was a big deal. And ironically enough, so just to let you know, the book was written 2014, 2015. It came out 2017. But in the fall of 2020, and I hate to bring this up because I like to avoid it as much as possible, but Harry Styles started dating Olivia Wilde.
Yes. And everyone was going, is it about that?
And I was like,
you dum-dums.
Did I predict it for not knowing either?
Did I predict this?
But that was a lot. There was a lot of press on that. I mean, like, not press, but like even just Instagram talking, TikTok talking, whatever. But that brought more attention to the book. And it was kind of a weird.
Because if you are not aware, everyone, despite that Robin did not particularly write Hayes to be Harry, everyone speculates that Hayes is Harry in One Direction. Right. And then all of a sudden, Harry was dating this older woman, Olivia Wilde, who was the same age as Solène, sort of like a lot of similarities there. But you couldn't
marriage, but then or partnership. I don't know if they were married, but anyway, no, I think I don't know. Anyway, I've tried not to look into the details, but
because that's not what you were doing.
But then I see now, like I try to stay away from TikTok and certain social media things. And
Yeah.
but I see all of people are like, oh my God, that Harry Styles Olivia Wilde book made whatever. I was like, I didn't write a book about Harry Styles Olivia Wilde, you stupid people. Sorry.
You stupid dum-dums. Look at the pub dates. Look at the... Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. And then like there you are being kind of put in a box again. It's like, nope, that's
not what this is.
Again,
Sorry.
That's not the book I was writing. That's not what I was doing. Okay, so 2020 kind of takes off. I know Hollywood likes to gobble up book rights like they're trophies, and then often they don't even produce them. They just sit there. When were the rights bought, and when did it start actually being made?
So the rights were first optioned. I guess she made the offer in the summer of 2017. The summer it came out, and I think the deal didn't close until like December or November of 2017. Yeah, early.
Right away.
And then
before it was even what it is.
And then they attached a writer. She attached a writer in August or September of 2019. Mm-hmm. And the writer came up with a script in spring of 2020, and then Annie signed on shortly after the Vogue article went viral. And then shortly after, Amazon made their deal with the main producer, and that was it, kind of. So that kind of all took off.
So somebody optioned this book right when the book came out, back when we're still selling like maybe one book a day on Instagram. Is that a thing you now have tons of romance author friends now that you've been, lumped into this category. Is that a thing? Are they trying to come in and get them before the book takes off so that they can option them for less? Like, is that the strategy?
My best romance author friends now are all super successful. I don't know if I just chose them well or they chose me.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's happened in the last 7 years. Like since my book has come out, they've gotten really big. And so it happens for them early on. So I kind of feel like that's when it happens. And the people tell you, like, if your book is going to auction, when your book is being sold, it's kind of like the time to get it out there to option it as well, if it's considered a hot commodity. But this is my first time writing, so it wasn't going to be a hot commodity. It's very rare that your book comes out a hot commodity, unless it's like, I don't know, Eat, Pray, Love or something like that. Like, you're
right. So were you like blown away that somebody wanted to option the rights over your book, or were you like, yeah, this is this amazing, incredible book? Of course they do. Like, because to me, that's like, whoa.
I was kind of the latter. I was not blown away because I when I was writing it, I wasn't seeing it as a film. I was definitely writing it for a book, right? But once it was done, I could start planning the next thing, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna get this made. Like, I think would be a great project. And like I was thinking, like, how do you make it cheaper? Because I had so many locations and so many stadium scenes. Like someone who'd produced before and had been on numerous film sets, I knew that it was expensive, and it was going to take. So you have all these little different ways of looking at film, right? So if you've got a project that's going to have big film sequences, whatever, like big sets and locations and stuff like that, it's going to require a certain amount of money. And the more money a studio is going to, or someone's going to put up, they're going to want a bigger star. You're not going to get a little star and then really big. Yeah. So I thought, well, they're going to have to get an A-list star. It's probably, it's going to be the woman, not the guy. It has to be, right. And then usually there are only a certain amount of actors, male actors, who are well known, who are okay being second fiddle to the woman. So it's probably going to be more of an unknown guy. So like I was aware of all these things that were going to have to happen.
Yeah.
And they kind of all did. And we just got lucky because Nicholas was unknown, but then he just started everything started.
He took off like right before this came out. Yeah, that was lucky.
We were lucky. And I say I wasn't part of it. I wasn't lucky. They got lucky. They brought on Nicholas. He was unknown. And then his career just started really happening between the time they signed him and releasing this movie.
Perfect. You have said a few times that you weren't involved with the production. Would you have liked to have been?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's hard to look back because it's like I wasn't, and it turned out here, and it's in a great place. But here's a better question: you are writing your second novel, or your billionth novel, but your second novel that you'll publish to the world. That will be available to me and not underneath your guest bed. You are writing your second novel. Will you be more involved in the production of this one? Great. I look forward to that.
Thank you.
I loved this movie. I love your book so much. I've read it 5 times. I recommend it to everyone I talk to.
Thank you so much.
I really enjoyed the movie, but there's of course, any book to movie adaptation is going to have this. There's so much that gets lost. But I think there were things that I would have focused on had the idea of you evangelist been involved. That were lost. What was something that was not carried from book to film that you, had you been involved, would have pushed for?
I would have pushed for the appearance of Lulit, her business partner and best friend.
That is a really important dynamic. That female friendship is what makes the book, is such an important piece of the book.
And for it to feel a little bit more like the art world, like to feel like the art world that I'd created, like on a larger scale, like having her more powerful and working at a more powerful, successful gallery than just a small local gallery. They're called local galleries when they're small and they, like, you're just in your little city.
Sure. And that was not what it was in the book.
Because that's not it. And
she was like an international badass.
She was a badass art dealer. She's traveling the world with her business partner. She's got her own agency. She has agency and she has power, and you understand more why he finds her desirable. It's not like she's just like this single mom in a small town with a small business. It's like she's like this businesswoman who holds her own, and there are many reasons for him to feel like not that he's her equal. She's ahead of him. You know what I mean? Yes, he's famous and he's got a lot of money, whatever, but she's not just, she's kind of she's just hitting her stride and her power, and it's kind of sexy and wonderful to see. And I missed that. I really would have fought for that.
I missed that.
I tried to fight for that.
I really missed that.
I didn't make it.
Did you have any agency in the screen adaptation?
No,
in the screen,
not at all.
And was that just early negotiated when you optioned it?
No, I think it's just how it ended up.
It's just how it plays out. Yeah, and the next time you'll know, because that was your first time, and you'll fight harder. I look forward to that.
Thank you.
In 10 years.
10 years.
I totally agree. I think that was.
I'll be putting in teeth for my interview. Well, this movie.
No, you'll be Anne Hathaway. You'll be Anne Hathaway, Benjamin Buttoning, and look better than you ever have. That's what'll be happening. That was what I felt was missing, the biggest missing piece from the movie. And again, I really enjoyed the movie, but I felt that was the biggest missing piece was in the movie. She's following him around on this world tour, oh, sure, I have nothing going on. And it was no, you're so busy. You're in,
she's
where was she? In
Basel,
Italy.
She's in Paris.
Yeah, Art Basel, thank you. You're in Switzerland for Art Basel. You're in Paris for a huge thing. And he is making time in his schedule for you.
It just levels the playing field more too,
Even their first, the New York meeting, she was in New York for her own work, and she didn't fly there for him. I was no, when that happened, I was oh no, she's just not get a booty call and fly to New York. She's in New York for herself, and she pops in, she makes a little time for him. That was my thing. And my second was
Isabel. I said this in the thingy that I felt I loved Ella Rubin's performance. I thought she was an absolute gem. And she's
we're so lucky it was her. This is the daughter.
Sorry, she plays Isabel. But I would have liked to seen Isabel at age 12, which is, I feel it's a much more fragile, delicate age, and where so much is hanging in the balance. And as a mom, you're needed more, and that's at the age of they're pushing you aside, and they want to be independent. They want to be their own woman. And at the same time, they they need you. They're still a kid. You know what I mean? And like I felt like the stakes were higher having her that age. It's a very tender age, and I think Hollywood, and it could have been any one of the people in making this film, kind of look at it as like, oh, we didn't want to alienate moms. We don't want them to think of Annie's character as a bad mom. But it's like,
well, that's a part of it.
It's like,
yeah,
I felt like it would.
That's what this was.
I mean, yeah,
because it was having to play. It was that push and pull, that tension between desire and motherhood.
And in the end, in the book, in the end, she chooses her daughter. But
yeah,
but I think they were afraid that women would not take to it, and they needed, and because a book and the movie are geared towards women, they really needed women to like her.
Huh. What do you think? Do you think that would have been a problem, or do you think it would have been an interesting story to tell? Maybe both.
I think it would have been an interesting story to tell, and I think it would have been the difference between like rom-com and
yes,
a more serious drama.
Yes, yeah, drama. Yeah, I think it sounds like just along the way, this book and the movie got pushed from, women's literature to romance and from drama to rom-com. And it's so funny that funny is one word for it. What you wrote and what you intended this story to be, we all wanted to put into such a different society, wanted to put into such a different category and box to make it like more palatable, almost, to make it digestible to us.
Well, someone very early on, one of my early reviews, it was Kirkus Review, and the reviewer said that this was a genre bending book, which I think is what it is, and exactly what it is, which is it's very life imitating art, because I talk about Solène not wanting to be put in a box and not wanting to just be this or just be that. Yes. And I feel like people want to put this book in a box and have it just be this or something they're familiar with. And it's not that.
Yeah. There's a line in the movie that I think was from the book. And if it wasn't, then it was a good new thing, when she's talking to her friend on the phone, and it's after she's getting totally blown up on the internet. Her relationship's been outed. Everyone's saying her like 40-year-old cougar and just nasty things about her on the internet. And she's talking to a friend on the phone, and she says,
people don't like to see happy women. Is that it?
It's like, who could have known that my happiness would make everybody so angry? Yeah. And that reminds me of this conversation. It's like, people want to see women in a very particular light. And
it's so interesting to me that all of it, that this is now the conversation that we're having in 2024.
Like, right. 10 years after you wrote
but also like, why? I didn't think I was writing anything cutting edge, really. That wasn't my intention. My intention was to write this book about this woman, and it wasn't like, I'm going to break down all the barriers and start a revolution. We're all going to talk about it.
Right.
But I guess nothing else was like that out there, at least that was garnered attention.
And so they had to shove it down. It is nice that you were able to put exactly the book that you wanted into the world, and now people kind of digest it as they
can. Exactly.
As they can. Like, some people see it as a romance that, holy shit, this is a romance that didn't have a happy ending. What? And they're so angry and they can't understand it. And then others get to have big conversations with their friends around the push and pull of motherhood and work and desire and romance, and how it is impossible to have all of those things sometimes. And it depends on where we are in our life. Did you think that Anne Hathaway and Nicholas were the perfect people for their roles? Like, when you first optioned it, did you have somebody in mind? Like, how people fan cast books? If you could fan cast, what would you have fan casted?
I never had a Hayes in mind, for one, because I felt like he was so perfect. No one was ever going to get him right. And so I thought he was definitely someone we were going to have to find, which is what they did. Yeah. I didn't think there was someone out there. People were like, oh, what about Timothée Chalamet?
Like an existing big star.
No, I think he's a great talent. but he was not Hayes.
God, that would have made me furious.
Right. Or they're like Shawn
Not
Mendes,
Hayes.
and I was like, I don't know that can he act? I don't know. He's really good looking, and I like his music. I need a guy who could really act, who's going to be able to play British, and he was going to be able to play. Well, the way I did it was posh British, and I want him to play more posh than Nicholas plays in the movie, and I'm pretty sure Nicholas could do it, but he was not directed to do that right. And I want him to be able to
that's so true. Hayes is the posh one. And
well, they're all
get that.
posh, really, except for Rory, but they changed it all, so it's not the same. And then I wanted him to. I knew he had to be able to like sing. Like we had to believe that he was a performer, and if he could play an instrument or two, bonus. Mm-hmm. And Nicholas came with it checked all the boxes.
Wait, did Nicholas sing?
Yes. Oh my God, the whole August Moon soundtrack is Nicholas singing. It's not even the other guys. The other guys act and dance. It's just Nicholas singing.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I know. How great is he?
Notes.
I know. Wait, he's wonderful.
Oh, this is going to bring a next level to my enjoyment of the soundtrack that I'm about to
Nicholas
go on
singing.
this afternoon.
Yeah, it's Nicholas singing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. He's
okay. That's incredible. So Nicholas, check. Yes,
and he can act, and he can cry when he needs to cry, and he can be charming and adorable, and he can be sexy. And it's like
and sexy.
Perfect. Done. He's done. And it was different because it was when she signed on to do the script, it was a much different script. It was a different script than it is now, but it was definitely different than Solène in the book.
Yes.
And what she does with the script she has here is pretty perfect.
Yeah.
It's different than Solène in the book, but I have no problem, no critiques of her performance at all in this book, in this film.
Yeah, she was like so all in and passionate and freaking gorgeous and all of the things. Stunning. I would have loved to see Anne Hathaway playing the badass Solène that we, the book readers, know. It would have been kind of cool. But we did see a powerful woman just in a very different place. Okay, I could talk to you for the rest of my life about your writing and your acting, which we hardly even touched on, and all of the things. But will you give us a teaser of what the next book is?
It's a female protagonist.
Yep.
There are relationships that some people are going to call unexpected, controversial, provocative.
Ooh.
It takes place at least partly in the art world.
Okay.
And sexy at points, and that's all I can really tell you.
Oh my gosh. Do we have when's it come out? Do we know anything?
No, I'm still doing rewrites. We don't know anything. I have not sold it. There's no publishing date, nothing like that.
Can we expect it in the next 2 years?
Within the next year. Oh my gosh. If not, then I've done something awful.
In the next year?
I don't, it depends how quickly.
Is that what you said?
No, within the next 2 years for sure.
Within the next 2 years, I would say for sure.
It'll be sold. It'll be done and ideally sold in the next year. It depends. You don't know how much leeway a publisher wants to give it.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you haven't sold it yet. You're writing it and then you sell it. Okay, because I come from the cookbook world where we...
right, yeah, you sell your proposal and then kind of fill it in after. No, I want it to be perfect before I put it in the hands of someone else. So they can destroy it. I
cannot wait. So they can destroy you all over again, and then the internet can come after you for what they think you should have done.
They won't destroy it. It just makes me... It's agonizing to have people. Sometimes it can be agonizing.
It's terrifying.
It's like
it's all in your own world, and it's exactly what you wanted, and then you put it out, and people critique.
But although I have to say, this time around, I'm much less. I'm better prepared.
Yes, you now have the thick skin of. I mean, you unwittingly, as an author in today's publishing landscape, you have to become like a creator. Right. Also, you have to become an influencer, creator, internet person to push your own book. And the nature of being a creator is that you are subject to direct criticism at all times.
Absolutely.
At all times. Somebody doesn't like your sweatshirt on you, they're going to say that sweatshirt washes you out. And you're going to say, I just wore it to a fucking photo shoot. So thank you for telling me, like, in what world are we giving people this type of feedback, but through a screen people feel it. So let's end it on, I have no notes on the idea of You the Book. I think it is, as your reader said, a genre-bending, beautiful, perfect book. I am so impressed by you that it was made into this beautiful film. It is such a different film than the book is, but it's wonderful, and you should be so proud. And I hope that you feel all of those things in addition to all of the difficult feelings that come with, your baby, this book that you worked on for so long, becoming a totally different thing. So I bet it's such an exciting week for you, and I'm so grateful for your time, and go enjoy the weekend in Paris with your niece.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Caro. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin.
Thanks for having me.